Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome to Exploring Elite Dangerous episode 44. I'm here right on the opposite side of the galaxy with Commander Pompey, and this was Waypoint 19 on the Distant Worlds expeditions. Quite a while ago now. It's taken me until now to finally get this footage put together into an episode. As of this moment, the fleet itself is rapidly approaching the final destination at Beagle Point, placing them 65,000 light years away from Earth and a total travel distance of over 81,000 light years. This, of course, has been a significant event for everyone involved, and every once in a while it's nice to take a brief step back and take a look at the things we got up to over the previous weeks. Here at Waypoint 19, we did a little bit of SRV driving, some flying over the surface of planets, before finally doing a mass SRV race. As you can see here, even this far away from civilized space, there is still a huge variety of ships. There's Cobras out here, and there is even a Type 7 Lakon. Now, I believe that the ships have a fairly low jump range. I know for sure that the Type 7 was around about the mid-20s in its jump range, 25 to 27 light years per jump, and that is quite low really, and I really admire the guy for spending the amount of time it took him to get out this way. After a while of just sitting around, we all decided to go for a bit of a fly, and a few people here were looking for an area that we could settle down in to do a bit of SRV racing. Whilst that was going on, we all had a little bit of a chat, and we just admired the beautiful icy views here. You can see in the distance there that the galactic core is starting to become a bit of a distant memory this far away, and the starfield itself is growing increasingly sparse. It would be only a few more waypoints now until the fleet would be crossing the abyss. A very sparse area of space that would perhaps be the most difficult part of this journey overall, and where a lot of pilots may find that their ships may struggle to make the jump of the vast distances between the sparse systems out that way. Eventually we come across this small hill here, a little area round which we felt we could land the group and then go on a little SRV drive. The ships started to assemble, and eventually we all settled down around this area. Now, as I've said many times before, I really do like driving the SRV within this game, but I've got to admit that I do struggle doing so on ice planets. I find them to be just a little bit too slippy, and that generally means you have to go a lot slower than I'd otherwise like to. That said, the view from these planetary surfaces can be absolutely spectacular. It wasn't long then until we were all assembled and on our way. For a good portion of the journey, the travelling was actually quite easy going, with the ground being relatively flat, but eventually we'd come to some quite significant rises that, due to the slipperiness of the ice, made it extremely difficult to get up. We did lose one or two SRVs along the way, but despite the terrain becoming increasingly more difficult here, we weren't quite ready to give up just yet. Over the comms, however, we were getting reports that one of the commanders within the group had found a very nice crater quite a long way off, which he felt would make the ideal grounds for an SRV racing session. So as the word started to spread, we all made our way back to our ships and located that commander. Now, immediately as the crater came into view, it was very apparent that this would indeed prove to be some great racing grounds. Aside from a number of scattered rocks here, the surface as a whole was very flat indeed. A few of the ships settled on the outer edges of the craters, and a few others settled down within the craters to act as markers for the edges of the racing track. I quickly made my way out of the ship to drive around in this little basin here, just to get a feel for what the ground was actually going to be like. Now, as I've said earlier on, icy planets do tend to be very slippery when you drive around them, but there is a little concession to that, and that's if you're on a ground that is significantly flat enough like this here, you can build up some great speed without having too much of a problem. That said though, you do still have to watch out for these rocks, as it's possible to trip over on them and go tumbling around and cause some significant damage to your SRV, as I found out much to my dismay here. But I've got a number of other SRVs, and fortunately enough this one didn't explode. But the same can't be said for the commander over there. The gravity here was also low enough to enable us to perform all manner of acrobatics. So, when everyone was finally settled down and into their SRV, it was time to line up and begin our little race. Now, I'm by no means a well-practiced driver, and I was fully expecting to come last at the very minimum here. By the standards of some of the other races that have been going on recently, there wasn't a whole lot of commanders here, but nonetheless, the numbers were high enough to keep things interesting. And before I knew it, the race was suddenly getting underway. Now, some players out there are exceptionally good pilots, and others are exceptionally good SRV racers. I'm neither, but I was hoping in this case that at the very least I'd be able to hold my own. Now, keeping in straight lines generally isn't too much of a problem. It's always the corners that do prove to be a problem, and it's all too easy to oversteer and find yourself spinning out, just as I did here. And getting back on track here can soon prove to lose you any advantage you may have had initially. But I did take some solace in the fact that I was treated to a rather interesting light show there of the shields as they reflected against the dust. Getting back on track, I soon headed off towards the next marker and just witnessed another commander exploding. I didn't quite catch who that actually was, but I was hoping that my SRV wouldn't be next, although I didn't think it would be, whilst I still had 100% on the hull. You can see on the radar here that a number of commanders have pretty much already made it to the final destination, and unfortunately for me I span out yet again. Don't ever let it be said that I pretend to be a good driver. A half-decent pilot, on the other hand, is a different story, and that's something I really can do. And I'm actually considering at this moment organising some sort of race through a planetary canyon somewhere. And this is something I'd consider organising back within human inhabited space. If any of you are at all interested in such a thing, do let me know. There are some very deep canyons out there, and somewhere like Ariel, back in the solar system, could make for the perfect ship trench run. Like I say, if you're interested in any of that, do let me know in the comments below. Now, whilst I'm far from coming near the front of this race, I was treated to another little view here as I flew past an SRV tyre. Now, by the time you watch this, the fleet will be right near waypoint 23 and Beagle Point, and they should be arriving there on the 2nd of April. Now, whilst unfortunately I'm not going to be able to make that date myself, I very much look forward to hearing about all the events and activities that are going on there. For now though, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time. This is Space Engine, I'm Obsidian Ant, and today we're going to go on a tour through space. Now, Space Engine, for those of you that don't know, is a fully simulated universe. You can go absolutely anywhere within it, any planet, any star, any galaxy, any nebula, literally anywhere you can imagine. The galaxies out there are full of natural wonders, full of beauty. It's absolutely stunning places like these two massive planets here.